You're listening to the Spirit Podcast.
Welcome back to the Spirit, the podcast where the strange is sacred and the mysteries are endless. I'm your host, Beck, joined by my intrepid co-host, the one and only, who's always ready to venture beyond the veil, Rachel. Hey, Rach.
Hello.
Today's episode is a deep dive into realms where healing meets higher consciousness and purpose is uncovered one transcendental step at a time. Our guest, Mich Hancock, had her channel open profoundly in 2022 through the transformative power of plant medicine. Since then, she's been guiding others to journey beyond the ordinary, helping them heal and connect with their true potential. Whether you're a seasoned psychonaut or just curious about the world of psychedelics and source energy, you'll want to buckle in for this one. Mich, welcome to the Spirit. We're thrilled to have you with us.
Thank you so much.
Let's start at the beginning. 2022 was clearly a pivotal year for you. What led you to plant medicine, and how did your channel open during that time?
Well, I met a gentleman. I'm in St. Louis. I met a gentleman in St. Louis who he calls it the conscious shala. And he was conducting psilocybin journeys. He also has some teachers that come in from Peru and do ayahuasca and wachuma. I had never sat with plant medicine before, and it just sounded so intriguing. And everything inside of me was like, you need to go check this out. This is something you should try. So I did, and oh my goodness, I was so happy that I did. That evening just opened up an already, nice channel that I had going on. This just took it that next level further, and I felt like I received so much healing in one evening that I felt would have taken a lot longer doing it on my own than just one evening sitting with plant medicine, and I was hooked. I knew I had to learn more.
Did you ever imagine that you'd be guiding others through these transformative journeys, or was this something that unfolded organically as part of your own awakening?
Completely organically. If you would have told me, even 5 years ago, I was going to be doing this, I'd have been like, no, I think you're taking too many mushrooms. There's no way I would have predicted that I'd be doing this.
That's pretty funny, taking too many mushrooms. Was there any resistance or fear you had to overcome when first stepping into the unknown world of psychedelics?
So me, no. And I think that the reason for that is because I had already done so much work ahead of time. I am very dedicated to meditating every day. I'm very dedicated to healing yourself emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically. I already had dived into so many different modalities that when I went into this, I will be honest with you, I didn't know people had what they would call, quote, a bad trip. I would say there's no such thing as a bad trip, because so far anyone I have worked with, it really has lended itself to healing in some way, even if the trip itself was uncomfortable. But I took to it like water. There happened to be a friend of mine who I'd known for a long time that was at this same ceremony. And afterwards he said, I had no idea you did this. I didn't know you were into this. I was like, well, that was my first time. And he's like, wait a minute, you look like an OG at this. How is that? And I think it's because of the work I had already done over time.
What was that work, may I ask?
Meditating, learning how to move energy. I've always been really intrigued with the fact that everything is energy. And so if you learn how to be with that energy, learn how to move that energy, then you can heal on many levels. And I'd already worked on so much of my healing to that point that psychedelics just opened up that channel even further and made it easier to heal.
Mich, do you remember the first moment or experience that made you realize that this is bigger than me?
I would say that as I moved forward into this world, so I, of course, started gathering some amazing friends. And one gentleman in particular, he felt very called to do a solo journey with me. And I was all for it, but I was also like, we're in uncharted territory here. I don't know what this looks like. And he's like, I just feel really called to do this with you. And so We went into a journey together. And that was the first time that I was with this other person and I'm hearing what I call source speaking to me and telling me, do this, do that. Like I felt like I was like in his energy field and just clearing things and alchemizing things and what have you. And afterwards, when we were processing and integrating it all, he was like, listen, this was awesome, but also really scary. He said that what his ego was dealing with. So of course, when the ego is there, that's a whole thing to deal with. But his ego was freaking out a little bit because what he was thinking in his head and what he was questioning in his head, I was answering out of my mouth. And he was thinking, okay, what is this witchery? But afterwards, he realized, he's like, I know you're not like a dark person and trying to do anything that is untoward, but it freaked him out a bit. And I was like, okay, so we have to figure out how to do this because the last thing I want to do is be freaking everyone out. But that's when I realized I have this connection to source. And from there, it just felt like different beings would just show up and want to work with me to help me be better at doing what I'm doing.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
It was very cool. So I've always felt very connected to Jesus and St. Michael. And there was a group that came in at some point and they called themselves Beyond the Beyond. And they felt very ancient, very old, but also a little on the dark. Like they felt a little dark. And so when I asked St. Michael about it, St. Michael said, well, yeah, he goes, I understand what you're saying, but they are not of the darkness, but they know how to work within the darkness. And they said, you've been trained. There's a big, long backstory to this, but I knew exactly what he meant was an experience I had in my lifetime of adopting a little boy who ended up being a sociopath. And it was a horrible thing to go through. It was just terrifying to go through.
Wow.
But we went through it. It was years and years of really difficult, very traumatic life experiences. And as soon as he said, well, you've been trained, I was like, was this the whole adoption thing? And St. Michael's like, yeah. And all while I was going through that, I would always hear, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. So that tells you that many of your life experiences, if you are on purpose and you are living what you came here to do, that even the really dark, scary things may in fact have a purpose for you.
I agree totally with that.
Right. And so here I am now, and people that come to me, there's people that are dealing with some really dark things. And because I've had this experience, I'm not freaked out by it. I know how to release that darkness. I know how to work within that realm. And then, what's so lovely is once all that darkness comes out, then it all gets filled up with light and the person heals.
Now, every person's experience with plant medicine is unique. How do you tailor your approach when guiding someone on their very first journey?
So I listen. Before the person comes over for a journey, I always connect with source and I get information that I need for that particular journey. Then we go into the journey and I listen and do. I am a compliant student of the universe. So whatever source tells me to do, I do it. And it just is the most amazingly intelligent voice that I'm hearing in my head, and that I am just repeating some of the things, or sometimes source is saying, no need to talk right now. Let's just get into the energy and get this done. I had an experience last weekend actually with someone, and we had what we call a sacred sitter with us that doesn't do the medicine, but is just there to help and assist and what have you. And the sacred sitter was telling me that once we went into the plant medicine, so we put on eye shades so that you want it to be really dark and you can get visuals and what have you. But she said she was watching us and she said, Mich, that was so incredible because you two were doing these same movements. Like if my hand would kind of start shaking, then the person I was working with, their hand was shaking. Well, what happened during that journey was source came to me and said, we're going to integrate you with her energy so that you can feel what's going on inside of her and you'll be able to alchemize it, which is something that I was taught how to do inner alchemy. And it just was such confirmation when you have this outside person going, I was watching you, you were in unison.
That is so amazing.
It's so amazing. I feel like I walk around Earth right now going, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of everything happening right now.
I like your energy, Mitch. For those that are unfamiliar, what I'm picking up here is you're taking the plant medicine with the person that's experiencing it or going through a journey or an experience. And you're almost like a shaman because you're guiding them through their journey. But you also have someone on the outside that is not on plant medicine that's kind of just keeping watch. Is that correct?
That's correct. What's interesting about it too is that over time, I take less and less plant medicine as my vibration raises. Also, the person I'm working with needs to take less because of the channel that's opened. And the sacred sitter will often report back to me that they feel like they've been on a plant medicine journey, even though they have not ingested anything.
So for those that are unfamiliar, like myself, could you describe what a typical session with you entails before, during, and then after the journey?
Absolutely. So before I meet with the person and we just talk about what do you want to be done with? What do you spin with? You know, when there are situations that trigger you, what's going on in your life right now that is a challenge that you're just like, I'm done. I want to be done with this. I'm sick of having this happen to me, whatever it happens to be, whether it's trying to call in abundance or not knowing your purpose or some kind of a trauma that you've just never been able to release. So we talk about all of that ahead of time. Then I get information and messages and readings before the journey. The person then comes over and psilocybin is my medicine. So we take some psilocybin. Once we begin to feel the effects of the medicine, then we lay down with eye shades and then I just listen. The experience can last anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 hours at times. And then afterwards, we process and integrate the experience if we're not exhausted. There have been some journeys that have been really exhausting. And for that, I've got an extra bedroom. It's like, go to sleep. In the morning, we'll have coffee and we'll process and integrate then. So we do a lot of the processing and integrating afterwards, as close to afterwards as possible. And then I like to meet with the person at least once more, possibly more. Like that's the after talk is, do we need to keep meeting? Some people, for example, have a life coach. So their life coach brings them over here to help get them out of a certain pattern that the life coach is feeling like we're just stuck and we need to disrupt this somehow. Or, you know, it could be that this person has a therapist that they will be processing and integrating with afterwards. But the process and integration is a very important part of this because so much healing can take place during the journey. You really don't even know what is happening. But the after is when you start to see it. You start to understand, wow, I used to think of things this way and now it's this way. This kind of thing used to make me just go crazy. Now I'm like, that just happened. I'll give you an example. One woman I worked with, she said that it was an exhausting journey. And so I was like, I think we just need to wait and do this later. And so she actually had her partner come pick her up that evening. And she said, when she got in the car with him, she looked at him and said, I am never doing that again. Never, ever. I love Mich, but no way. Well, a few days later, she shared with me that she had had a memory of an aunt of hers who was dealing with cancer and had really, really worked to stay on earth, wanted to stay alive. And she said she remembered thinking, why are you working so hard to stay alive? If I had cancer, I would use that as my ticket off of earth. I don't like being here. I would be more than happy to leave. Well, she began to have that memory again about her aunt. And she said, it was the first time that I can remember thinking, I do want to stay on earth. I do want to live this life. People have these really significant insights. Thankful that they tell me this because it's confirmation that I'm on the right track with these folks and, serving them and source well. And it's just really beautiful, everything that seems to happen.
Have you ever had to turn someone away from the medicine? And how did you navigate that?
So it's never a no. It's more of sometimes it's a not yet. The not yet is we have to have a few more sessions of talking and figuring out what to do. Some people come to me and they've never done psychedelics before, and that's fine. Like I have definitely just worked with those people, but sometimes they need a little bit more help in the beginning, because what will definitely get in your way is if your ego is just fired. If your ego is feeling like I don't have control of this situation and this is freaking me out, the ego really needs to just kind of be in the background and be quiet. Trusting and surrendering, being in that place is the best way to go about this. That's where you can really go outside of space and time and where the big healing happens. And so maybe sometimes it takes a little bit longer for us to establish that trust with each other to be able to do this. It's a very intimate experience because you're mixing energies. So that person really has to feel comfortable with you and with the sacred sitter in order to truly get the healing they're looking for.
I've dabbled a little bit in my younger age, and it wasn't the most fun for me.
I hear this a lot with the younger age.
Yeah, I didn't have good experience. Of course, the first few times I did it was chemical versions. But then when I did try mushrooms, magic mushrooms, I did have better experiences. But there was always something in me that just didn't, I don't know, there was something, I don't know if it was fear or if it was just something that just didn't align with me and I didn't handle well.
And it's not for everyone, right? I really do believe that people have their own medicine. It's finding what is your medicine, whether that's plant medicine or energy work of some sort or Reiki, whatever it might be. And sometimes it's a combination of things, but I feel like you really need to be called to want to do this because it does require such trust and surrender, both with the person that is creating the container and the experience for you, as well as source energy. I had a friend one time, I said, some people get a little freaked out, and she's like, well, read the Bible. When God starts talking to people, they can get a little freaked out. I'm like, this is true. So
that's so true. And I think everybody, like you said, reacts differently to it. I think where you are in your life when you're doing it, like you had said, a lot of people say that when they're younger. Well, yeah, we're wild things when we're younger. We don't have that spiritual depth usually baked into us at that point. So we're kind of just letting whatever come at us, and we don't have anyone to help guide us either. It's usually a bunch of our idiot friends, right? So
it's like when you are being asked to do something that you may not have any control over, that can be a really scary thing for the ego, because the ego is used to protecting you. So your ego has been taught all this time on earth how to protect you. And now we're going, okay, ego, just sit in the back corner, please.
Yeah, I felt extremely open as being a medium. I felt very open, and I just felt like spiritually attacked under it. And I had no control, no boundaries. It was like my walls were down, and it was horrifying as an experience for me. But looking at it from an adult now, somebody that's grown and figured out what's what, I can see where you're coming from with the plant medicine.
Well, and also setting the space, right? And so before the person comes over, I set sacred space. I call in angels and source energy and different beings that I have worked with to really protect our container. I have a loft in St. Louis, and all my friends call it the spaceship. And if you saw how it was lit up at night, you'd understand why. I create that sacred, very safe, protected space within the spaceship so that nothing icky gets in here during our journey.
Makes sense. It's like a lot of us spiritual people, we say our prayers before opening and prayers upon closing because you want only the highest of good.
Yeah, yeah.
You've said that plant medicine helps people transcend space and time. How would you describe that sensation to someone who's never experienced it?
So it's going back home. That's how I look at it. So here we are on Earth. We're under the amnesia of living in this third dimensional world. And we have completely forgotten where we came from. And going over there, like going back home, is the best feeling on earth. I feel way more at home actually, than being on Earth.
Yeah.
So I think I already kind of came in with, what the heck is this place? So I feel very comfortable over there. For someone who has completely forgotten, and maybe they've been to Earth many, many times, so they're not as familiar with the feeling of home, the energy can feel quite intense. So if you're not familiar with that energy and your ego pops up going, whoa, whoa, hey, ooh, this isn't cool, we should back out of this. I always tell people, just let the energy come in, because it really does feel wonderful once you just sink into it. And when you're there, space and time is no longer a thing. I many times will just be completely out of body. I can't even feel my body while I'm there. I'll know when I come back, like sometimes I'll swallow and be like, oh, I'm back in my body now. Okay. But going outside of space and time, I feel like so much energy and so much work can be done on behalf of that human. I've had many experiences with, I call them the worker bees, but they have this sort of energy about them that feels just like little worker bees. Like they're, oh my goodness, this is in this body. We need to get this out. We need to get that out. You know, they work on people physically. And I had one woman she was very aware of what was going on. And she asked me, she's like, Mish, what are these? I'm like, you can see them. I call them the worker bees, and they work on you physically. So if there's anything in particular that you feel that you would like them to work on, you'll be sure to put in your request. And she said, I got this thing going on in my jaw. And she's like, oh my gosh, they're in my jaw right now. I'm like, I know, they're awesome. So, there's certain things that happen a lot that I know I can kind of count on. And the worker bees tend to come in whenever there's some physical things that they feel. And I know for me personally, I'm 60 years old. You hear about people in my age range that will say things like, oh, you get to be this age and everything starts hurting. And I don't have anything hurting on my body. And I know it's because the worker bees come in and help me to alchemize and heal.
Wow. Do you have a standout story from someone you've guided, a moment where you saw the plant medicine work its magic in an undeniable way?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of those. Let's see. I had a person that had a terrifying experience at first. So I felt something going on, and I could feel, I wasn't quite sure, like this person was at this place of choice. And I looked at her, I said, where are we going right now? And I saw this look of terror on her face. And I thought, oh boy, we're going somewhere here. She was paralyzed. She felt like she could not move. And from her words, she just felt so trapped that she didn't know what to do. And I'm listening to Source, and Source was like, don't act yet. Don't act yet. We're going to tell you when to act. And I'm thinking she's spiraling, but I know to listen. So at one point they said, all right, it's time to act. So I just held her face and I said, okay, you were spiraling and we're going to get you out of this. As I was looking at her, I could see demons and lots of darkness and what have you. And they said to me, you are a mirror to her. So she was seeing demons in me as well. So I was just holding her face and I was like, okay, listen, you're seeing things you don't want to see right now. You're seeing demons and darkness. You are powerful. I need you to change what you see. And as we worked through this, and I would say it took about 20 minutes, she finally began to get out of it and let the darkness out so light can come in. Afterwards, what she described to me, she said, it's like I saw all the prisons I had created for myself or that I had been born into, which this has become a theme in many of the people I work with, is the prison you're born into that was created by your ancestors, what have you. And then you build upon your prison while you're here. Of course, we want to get free from all the prisons. So she had such clarity of how she was holding herself back, how she was not the full expression of who she wanted to be. And after that experience, her world is just opening. Her business is opening. What she's able to do with her business is opening. It's like she just freed herself and is now living a much more joyful expression of herself.
It must be very hard because we're so indoctrinated, whether it be mostly religion, actually. So I can see where people would see demons. That was my first experience. I didn't see a demon per se, but I saw a person's eyes just be hollow. And that was really scary to me. And I thought, wow, I don't like this. I don't know what's happening. And everyone else around me was having a blast. But I'm wondering if that was my own prison. That was something that I had formulated somehow through that.
And the deprogramming is another thing that happens. I feel that what we are here doing on Earth right now, those of us that raised our hands and say, yeah, I'll go to Earth right now for what is happening. I feel that many of us are making a choice right now to live a more heart-centered life. And to get there, we have to deprogram ourselves. The programming is deep. Our ancestors have had the programming for how long, and it's been passed down to us. But I have found that as I continue down this path, I start to see things I didn't see before, notice the programming a lot more so I can lift myself out of it. I was told at one point to give up my health insurance because they told me to. Source told me to. And Source said, it's programming. You guys don't need all this. You can heal yourselves. But they also have a thing about believing before seeing. And so you just have to believe us and then you'll see it. And they called believing a technology. They're like, if you can truly believe something, then you will see it. But you have to get to that place of believing. It can't be, well, I'll believe it when I see it. It's believe it, then see it.
We couldn't agree more.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're living that. We really are. In your experience, is there a common thread or issue that people carry into these journeys, something collective like trauma, disconnection, or search for meaning?
Trauma is a big one, right? And even trauma that we don't know exists within us because it was handed down from great somebody. There are many times where I'm working with people and I'm seeing that we're healing them, but we're also healing their ancestral bloodline. So I do believe that's part of what all of us have come here to do at this time, is to not only heal ourselves, but to also heal our ancestral bloodline, because we've got a lot of that stored up at this point. So if you think of Jesus coming to earth, and we've all heard to forgive us of our sins, or perhaps you could look at it more like release karma. I think Jesus came here to teach us how to do this for ourselves. I don't think Jesus is showing back up on earth, but the Christ consciousness is being awakened within our hearts. And as we awaken that Christ consciousness, that helps us to heal and release the karma, the sins, whatever you want to call it, from ourselves as well as from our ancestors.
I'm sitting here looking at a card. I created a little oracle deck card, and I have one each day I set on my desk, and it's Ancestral Flame. And as you were talking about the ancestral contracts and things that we have to break throughout our lives. So that really hit home. And then the Christ consciousness, I couldn't agree more. It's not going to be Jesus showing up on a cloud. It's a Christ consciousness within each of us that I think will emerge, or is emerging actually, because it's within us.
Exactly.
So
let's awaken it and be that.
When I went through my Reiki attunement, that's what they really implemented, that he told us what I can do, you can do too. So he was a Reiki healer as well.
Yeah. I feel like I've been given a lot of interesting insights into the Bible as well through Source. And that whole story is meant to teach us how to be that.
absolutely.
And it's inside of us, not outside of us.
Hey, Spirit Seekers, enjoying the show? Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Spirit. Leave us a review on Apple or Spotify and share the love. We drop a new video every week on our YouTube channel covering paranormal, conspiracy, high strangeness, and more. Have questions or want to share your own spooky story? Drop us a line at tothespiritpod@gmail.com. Stay spirited.
You've talked about your connection to Source, and we know it evolved since working with plant medicine. Would you say it's changed how you live your day-to-day life?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I feel like life is so much easier now because of being in such trust and surrender. I am more in flow. So I used to be super regimented, like I get up at this time and then I exercise and then I do that and then I do that. I was told quit with all the regimen, be more in flow, and everything is just easier. So it's weird how all of a sudden I have a lot more time to do things that I didn't have before, and opportunities sort of just show up, and it's just way more awesome to live in that trust and surrender of all that is than people understand. And again, it's like I had the talk with my ego and I was like, thank you for getting me this far, but I got it from here. You get to take a rest now. I've got it. I know what to do.
For listeners who feel disconnected from source, do you have any simple practices that they can use to start rebuilding that connection?
Yeah, meditation is huge. And, I understand when people are like, I can't meditate or I don't know how to meditate. I don't think it has to look any particular way. I think just, again, get rid of what you think it's supposed to look like and just be quiet. Just be quiet and connect within and start asking source to be with you. Start saying, please help me to see you, to feel you, to hear you. Be in a place of awareness because we all hear, experience the messages differently. Some people may start seeing certain numbers or certain birds or whatever. Certain animals can have messages. Be in that place of awareness around you. Quit walking around with your head in your phone. Every once in a while, just look up and be and feel that you are a part of everything because you are. We're all source.
Be present.
We are all source. We're not God realized. And the more you become to understand that I really am connected to everything and a part of everything, then it just feels like you are. You're just more in flow with the universe. And when you're more in flow with the universe, things just align and happen. And it'll seem like magic because it feels like magic.
Yes.
But why not experience the magic?
Let's talk integration. How important is the post-journey phase, and what practices do you recommend to truly ground what's been revealed?
If you do not integrate, then there's no reason to ever do this. If you're coming into this just for the experience only and then you're done, then I would not really want to work with you because that means that you are not going to heal from what you want to heal from. The integration, my suggestion is, one, be in a state of awareness so you see the before and after. Journal. And again, when you journal, just be really quiet and just start to write. You don't have to be like, oh, I'm writing a novel. Just write and let source work through you because you will get different messages when you're just writing, not from your head, but from your heart and from source. And then spend quiet time. Make room for quiet so that you can just be with yourself and start to understand, how do you feel differently? Like, take note of it because that's the confirmation that things have worked for you.
We've talked about sitting in the void and just being a part of that in the silence, in the dark, with just yourself.
Because people don't do that enough. They always want the noise.
Well, and if you can find a group too, I have a monthly group that meets out here. Not everybody in the group has done plant medicine, but it certainly is a topic of conversation. And so a lot of the people in the group have done plant medicine, and this gives them a chance to just work with each other in community to integrate.
With the growing interest in psychedelics, there's also a lot of misinformation. What advice do you give people looking to safely explore plant medicine?
I think it's really do you feel that the person that you are called to work with, go talk with them and make sure that you feel comfortable with that person. And that, maybe you also talk to some other people they've worked with. I know that is something I offer to people all the time. Do you want to talk to some people who have worked with me so you can hear from them, not me, what this was like for them? Because as you have already talked about, if you don't have a safe container, it can get dangerous. It can let things into you don't want to let into you. And so if you want to explore this, find someone that has done it enough that you feel very comfortable with them and that they have proven themselves through other people that they've worked with, that they are a safe human to be with. Because of course there are going to be those folks out there that are not of integrity.
And how do you personally stay grounded after holding space for so many others?
It's community. Having a really strong community around you of people that I can go to and go, I just had a really tough experience this weekend with one of the journeys I did for one of these people because, they had so much trauma in their background and it expended a lot of my energy. Good to have people that you really trust that you can talk to as well. I channel every day, so I get messages from Source every day. That also helps because I'll have questions, but then Source will also bring through information that I need. And I meditate a lot. I love meditating. I would probably do it all day if somebody would pay me to do it, but that hasn't come up yet.
I think you need to rub off on me because I have a little bit of a problem with that part of it, but I like it. What qualities should someone look for in a trustworthy guide or facilitator?
So there's a few different ways. I mean, there are people out there that get certifications. I don't really know anything about the certifications. Some people come at this more from the head space, so they go and they learn and get certifications and what have you. I come at it more from the heart space where I'm just really connected to Source. So different people have a different way of looking at it. There's some people that are going to be like, oh, you have to get certified. I kept checking in with Source about that, and Source was like, why? You have sort of the ultimate teacher here, Mich. So you'll just get frustrated and annoyed getting a certification. So I've decided to just go with this route, which some people really like. Others may feel differently. Really important, though, is to make sure that talk to other people who have had the experience with this person so that you can understand like what it was like for them. What did they experience? We don't have like a grading system out there. I don't know that we want one. And it's hard to say because I want to say to some people like, just do you feel it? But some people have a really hard time with their feelings too. And some people kind of get in the way of their feelings. Just go into it a little bit at a time. In fact, one of the things I'm thinking about putting together is kind of a psychedelic salon where you come over, you do just a tiny bit of medicine, and maybe we do breath work or we have someone here with the singing bowls, just so you can kind of feel like what it feels like in your body before going all in.
What's one belief you used to hold that completely dissolved after your awakening?
Goodness gracious. There's so many. I am now at a place where I'm like, look, my belief system is very fluid. As new information comes in, I just accept that. Growing up, I grew up Catholic, and I used to think that God was this great big man in the sky that was watching everything I was doing and judging me constantly. And I was just always hoping that I could make for sure that I got to heaven, did all the right stuff. But as I got older, I just started to feel really differently about things. And I still thought that God was like some big being for a long time. Now I just know God is the energy. God is all that is. I would describe myself as a person that I can look at other people and I can see God in them. I don't know if they can see God in themselves, but what I want for all of us is for all of us to know that we're that we are that connected, that, when we are fighting each other, it may be two of your fingers fighting each other. We're all part of the same energy. If we could just understand that we are this great, big, humongous family of beautiful beings, let's live on that earth.
I want that earth.
Yeah.
I know. Let's live on that earth.
Yeah.
But there's so much more than we know. I know for sure as I do this that there's more that I don't know. So every time I feel like I know more, I have more questions. Can I tell you guys a really wacky story?
Oh, yeah.
So I was doing a journey one time with a couple of my friends, and before I went into this journey, Beyond the Beyond had come into me and they said, we're going to initiate you tonight. I didn't know what that meant, but I just said, okay. Well, at one point I felt Beyond the Beyond come in and I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to get initiated. And I felt this really interesting energy. I went into this whole new space. And when I got into this space, I could see these beings in my peripheral vision, but I felt like I couldn't look at them directly, like that was not of protocol. So I just kind of I felt like I was looking down at the floor, and I heard this woman's voice. And this woman said, what are you doing here? How did you get in here? And I said, I'm here to get initiated. Beyond the Beyond sent me. And then I heard some talking in the background, and I heard this man say, yeah, she's supposed to be here. And this lady was like, We don't normally get your type here. I don't know what that meant. I'm like, okay.
What?
I don't know. I'm thinking, I don't know how to get out of here. I don't even know how I got here. So I don't know what I'm doing, She's like, okay, great. So you're going to get initiated. Well, with that, I've got this playlist that I play for journeys, and it must have 26 hours of songs on there. And whenever I start the playlist before our journey, I always hit shuffle and I call it DJ Source. I'm like, DJ Source is on deck.
Nice.
Whatever DJ Source decides to play. And it's amazing how the music it's just amazing. Well, as soon as I'm going to get this initiation, whatever that means, Om Mani Padme Om starts playing. And I thought, this seems very appropriate for initiation music. And I felt all kinds of energy and I didn't quite know what was going on, but then I got some images in my head. So after I came out of this and after we came out of Journey, one of my friends, I told him, I got a new skill set tonight. You want to practice with me? And he's like, absolutely. So I told him, I said, I'm just going to speak and we're going to figure it out because I've never done this before. I don't really know. I said, so basically I am going to feel like we connect our souls. And then whatever you have inside of you that you no longer want inside of you, you give it to me. He's like, all right, let's try this thing. So I felt like we connected and he's like, can I talk? I'm like, absolutely. So he just starts talking and talking and talking. And I'm feeling all this energy going through me. So kind of like I'm a spiritual washing machine, you get all the ickies out, it goes through me, transmute it to the light. After that experience, he shared with me that there were memories coming up for him that he had not had access to until that very moment. And he said, Mich, I was just like, I could feel it just coming out of me. I feel so much lighter. And so since then, that's another thing that I've been able to do. But where in the heck did I go? Who were these people?
I was going to ask you that. I was going to say, do you know who these beings were?
Right. And like those kind of experiences happen and you're like, wow, so much about the universe. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know if I was at the Initiation Corporation. I was kind of like, hey, so like if I take mushrooms every day, can I come work for you guys? This sounds kind of cool, So I am completely in awe of the things that we have no idea. There is so much out there in this infinite universe that we have zero clue exists.
I have to ask you because Rach and I are sitting here listening to you and we're hearing voices behind you. We're hearing laughter. I'm hoping it picks up on this recording, but I don't know if there's someone near you because
there is not.
Oh, okay. Because we're looking at each other going, are you hearing laughter? We heard someone giggle when you were telling the story. It sounded like a woman's giggle, right?
Yeah.
And then,
oh my gosh, I wonder if it's my person in Initiation Corporation. Like, going, oh yeah, I remember when you came up, hon. That was so much fun.
I really hope that this is on the recording so I can go back and replay it. And then I think
would be amazing.
Rachel she thought she heard a man earlier.
It's resonating as she talks. I hear a deeper voice echoing her, like mirroring her as she's talking.
Interesting.
Oh my gosh, how interesting. This is so fun. I'm so excited. I hope it shows up.
You carry a vibration.
I was just going to say you have the vibe and we're on the vibe with you.
For sure.
Oh, I hope to meet you guys in person someday. I would love to.
Where do you see plant medicine going in the next decade? Do you think society is ready for a broader acceptance or are there hurdles we still need to overcome?
I would say as far as the general population goes, there's hurdles. Still to this day, every once in a while, I'll run across someone that'll be like, oh, hey, Mich, yeah, I really want to go do mushrooms with you. And I can tell they're not thinking the same thing I'm thinking, And we have so much in our society. Let's take alcohol. That's something that takes you out of everything. Like that's kind of a stepping out. I look at psychedelics as when you're stepping in. You're diving inward to really heal yourself as opposed to checking out, you're checking in, basically. I don't know that our general population is ready for that. I think there are a lot of people that are still very tied to the third dimension.
Yes.
And because of that, I look at it like a tornado. If you can stay in the calm center and you see everybody else spinning about, and you hold space for those people because they truly are, they're challenged and they're going through pain and they're having quite a difficult time right now. But becoming one of the people that are in the calm center and seeing more than what we've been programmed to believe or see or notice, that's when plant medicine may be something you want to explore. It is definitely not something that you want to explore just because you think it'll be fun. That would not be the way to approach it.
Right.
I want you to be really serious about this. I want you to understand that a lot of healing can take place for you and that you are an active participant in that. You have to be a part of the experience because, there's something about the Trinity. There's two people plus source being there. That is a beautiful dynamic where this healing can take place. But if you're just going to kind of lay there and think this is like a roller coaster ride, you're not approaching this in a respectful way.
And I heard someone use this in explanation, I think on a TikTok, when it comes to alcohol, marijuana, psychedelics, all these things. When we try them, she said it as...
We heard a whistle, so we were just, yeah.
Just froze.
Yeah.
I want to know who's whistling in here.
Oh, I know that had to have picked up.
She, when we use these things and we experiment with them, they are more of a ticket, like a pass to show us what our body can actually do on its own. So if, say, you were a habitual marijuana smoker or a partaker, and then one day it just doesn't resonate anymore, it's because your vibration has risen above that, because your body now is allowed to be able to get to that frequency without having to use that. That was just your pass to get you there. What do you think about that theory?
That's how I feel with psilocybin right now, is that very little goes a long way now with me. I do believe at some point I will not need it anymore, because I look at it as you're using the plant medicine to raise your vibration, and then sources bring its vibration down a bit to meet you. So the higher you go with your vibration, the less medicine you're going to need. I feel like alcohol, and maybe there is a way to adjust your attitude towards something like alcohol, but I feel like people use alcohol to kind of, just kind of drop out, to forget, to not feel.
I agree.
To temper the traumas that want to come out. It's like, let me just drink it down and then I don't have to deal with it. Whereas psychedelics are going to amplify, and psychedelics are going to call you to, let's deal with this. Let's get it out of here. And isn't it a great idea to just deal with it one more time and get it out of you? Although I will tell you, so many times source comes in and will say to me, tell them to make this easy, because people will start getting in their heads and start telling a story. And I'll be like, don't with the story. We don't need the story. The other thing I see people doing is they will equate what they've seen on a show, for example, where people are in the therapist's office and crying and, and they think, oh, that's how you do this. And I'll be like, you don't have to do it that way. Just let it go. Get it out. Let's just go straight from A to Z here. Let's not worry about all the in between or what you've seen on TV or what you have in your head of what this is supposed to look like. Just let it out and be done with it.
Yeah. All right, Mich. Before we let you go, we like to have a little fun. We're going to throw some quick questions at you. No overthinking allowed. Just say what comes to mind.
Okay.
What's your astrological sign?
Cancer.
First plant or flower that comes to mind?
A rose.
One word to describe a plant medicine journey.
Beautiful.
Favorite time of day to meditate, sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Nice. Spirit animal you vibe with the most?
Oh, I don't know. Why am I not getting it? Let's say cat, because my cat and I are, yeah, we got a vibe.
Oh, we love cats, don't we, Rich?
Cats.
We love them. Would you rather astral travel to the past or the future?
Future.
Tea, cacao, or coffee? What's your go-to ritual drink?
Coffee is a daily drink. Tea before journey.
Okay. If you could have a conversation with any figure from history, who would it be?
Now, this is what I think is such a funny question. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because I feel like I could have a conversation with anybody.
Yeah.
If you could talk to anybody, it would be Jesus. I'm like, I talk to Jesus all the time. We have regular conversations.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'll go to the next one then. Most unexpected lesson plant medicine has taught you.
Oh, that integrating with the light energy of source is just as important as integrating with the dark energy of source.
Well, I like that. Light and shadow. Favorite grounding activity when you're back in ordinary reality?
Journaling.
Aliens, yes, no, or already met them on a journey?
Already met them.
I love it. Okay, here's my last question. If you could distill one essential message from your work to share with the world, what would it be? And you don't have to make this short.
Please come be with me so that I can show you what true, beautiful, amazing source love is.
We love it. Mich, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. This was just beautiful. Thank you so much. I loved this.
For those who feel called to learn more about your work or possibly connect with you for a session, where can they find you?
I'm not really out on social media talking about this right yet. You guys are my coming out of the spiritual closet party.
Yay.
I don't know if you know this.
We feel proud.
I would say the best way to get a hold of me, can I share my email address that people can email me?
Sure. And I'll put it in the description of the links below as well.
Yeah. So you can email me at Mich, M-I-C-H, at 100thmm.com. That is actually my marketing agency. That's what I do for my job. I own a marketing agency. I've owned it for 15 years now. We are getting ready to launch something called energy marketing soon. So I'm bridging my marketing world and my psychedelic world through energy marketing.
What is energy marketing? I need to know.
Oh yeah, this is a whole new thing.
Okay.
I have amazing business consultant, Josh Levy, and I work together. And Josh knows everything that I'm up to. He himself has not been called to do plant medicine, but he lives vicariously through me on this one. Josh and I were talking and he was like, he's like, what you and I do when we're working with clients is it's energy. We do energy marketing. So I feel like energy marketing is something that's missing. In our world, everybody's so tapped into, what are the numbers? What are the analytics?
Yeah. Algorithm. Yeah.
Okay. I get it. But I have always come at things from an intuitive place. And what was interesting is when I would work with Josh and say, hey, I've got this idea, I've got this new thing I want to do at marketing, blah, blah, blah. Here's what it looks like. Here's what I want to charge. And then he would say, okay, let's back that number down and find out if that number makes sense to charge. And I was always right. But it was important for us to also know the numbers behind it. And so over time, Josh and I realized that if I had something going on with a client that, I was like, hey, this is going on, like, their marketing just doesn't feel like it's working, or I'm having an issue with this client or what have you, we would talk about it. We'd verbalize about it. We'd take action on things. And then everything would just start to open up and it would all get better. And we're like, okay, we're onto something here.
Yeah.
This energy marketing is a big deal. And so that is something that we are going to start putting together to offer to these folks out there to help them to understand how to align with what they want in their business, what they want to do with their business so that they can start to make things happen. And he's got the masculine energy. I've got the feminine energy, that coming together along with, quite frankly, our marketing brilliance. It's just really amazing.
I love it. Actually, Rachel and I are sitting there nodding at each other like, isn't it wonderful the way the world works and how we just made another thread of connection to a beautiful soul.
Oh, thank you guys so much. I am so excited by this. I can't even tell you. I've been joking about it all day. I'm like, I'm coming out the spiritual closet.
You're with the perfect people to do this with. Mich, thank you so much for sharing your insights, your stories, and your light with us today. It's clear that your work isn't just about healing. It's about unlocking something timeless within each of us. Rachel, after that conversation, I'm pretty sure my third eye needs a nap and a snack. What do you think?
I always need an energy snack.
That's
after
right.
Sessions.
And to our listeners, wherever you are on your journey, remember the answers might just be waiting beyond the veil. Until next time, keep your spirit open and stay curious.
To the spirit
Podcast.
supernatural science
I'm ghost.
psychic mystic
Spirit.
divine source heaven the dead.
It's magic.